Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you very much for joining us today. I'd like to seek your good wishes and your blessings so that we can seek the blessings of His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada as well. So these are the pranam mantras for Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So we can actually recite these. Namayom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Ti Namine Shri Vrishabhanavi Devi Daitaya Kripate Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhave Namaha Madhurya Jwala Premadhya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktira Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murti Tinatarine Rupanuga Viruddha Pasidanta Dvanta Harine.
Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj ki Jai.
Okay, Priti, would you like to read the English translations of these mantras?
Hare Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. I offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Varsa Navi Devi Dayita Dasa, another name of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who is favored by Srimati Radharani, and who is the ocean of transcendental mercy and the deliverer of the science of Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, the personified energy of Sri Chaitanya's mercy, who delivered devotional service which is enriched with conjugal love of Radha and Krishna, coming exactly in the line of revelation of Srila Rupa Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who are the personified teachings of Lord Chaitanya. You are the deliverer of the fallen souls. You do not tolerate any statement which is against the teachings of devotional service enunciated by Srila Rupa Goswami.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So we wanted to give you darshan of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and this is him. And if you look at the Guru Parampara, it starts with, you can go that way. This is Haridas Thakur. This is Jagannath Das Babaji. Then Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he was a father of Bhaktisiddhanta. And Bhakti Vinod Thakur's disciple, if you like, is Gokishore Das Babaji, whose disciple is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And his is the birthday today, who inspired Srila Prabhupada, our own A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, next one, to come to the West. So this is the Guru Parampara. And then we've been very fortunate to be linked with this Guru Parampara by His Holiness Krishnadas Swami Maharaj. Good, thank you so much. Okay. So let's talk about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj ki Jai. So, very special personality. Now, during the time of his father, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, this Vaishnavism, which was taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was pretty much lost. It was underground. There weren't any really powerful personalities, not so many. and it was effectively lost. And it had also become somewhat degraded by the practice of sahaja. So they were imitating the pastimes of Krishna between like the gopis and Krishna's pastimes. So really they made a mess of Vaishnavism, brought it some very bad names. And there was some fanaticism and sentimentalism mixed in. So it was a real mess. So this is going back to the 1800s. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very sad to see this. So he wanted to really re-establish the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He wrote many books in Bengali, Sanskrit, English, which brought out the real teachings of Mahaprabhu and tried to bring the real true essence of Vaishnavism into society again. And he also would travel to many parts of Bharatvarsh, giving lectures, and in that way he was promoting. But it was single-handed. It was really amazing what he did.
Yes, hearing today that he started 500 Namahatas as well.
Yeah, amazing effort. And we struggle with one. And he presented the glories of Chaitanya to all learned men of the world. So he wrote many books and he actually sent them across the world. One of which was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Life and Percepts. And that went to McGill University in Canada. And one of the devotees there found that book, which was written in 1896, which is the birth year of Srila Prabhupada, our own Srila Prabhupada. So, however, so that this preaching of Nama Sankirtan could continue even after he leaves the world.
Okay, Prit is asking what's the Namahata.
Oh, yeah. Namahata is like a little village preaching, village congregation getting together. Right?
It's Nama means the holy names, and Hatha means a gathering. So they gather. It's like a small group. It's not quite a temple.
Small group, yeah.
It's not quite a temple, but it's like a little satsang group.
And if you look now, Jayapataka Swami promotes this a lot in Bengal. So they have hundreds of thousands of Namahats all over Bengal. Little groups getting together to chant Mahamantra. Really powerful way to become Krishna conscious. So he prayed to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to send him a successor or an assistant from his own personal staff of preachers. And answering the prayer of the Thakur, a son was born to him on February 6th, 1874, whilst Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a government magistrate in Jagannath Puri in Orissa.
So Bhaktivinoda Thakur had sons, but he wanted a ray of Vishnu, so he prayed to Jagannath. And one day in his dream, Jagannath said, "Go and pray to Bimla Devi, who is an incarnation of Parvati, and she's also has a temple in the Jagannath complex." So he said, "Go and pray to her, and her prasad will be your ray of Vishnu." So he did that, and he got that ray of Vishnu, which is Bhaktisiddhanta.
So he was named Bimla Prasad, one who receives the mercy of Bimla Devi, the internal potency of Jagannath, manifest as a form of Durga.
And they also say that all the Jagannath Prasad is first offered to Bimla Devi and then offered to everyone
And she
else.
offers it to Jagannath Baladev Subhadra.
No.
She can't eat it, can she?
No, it's offered. Okay.
Similarly, we offer it to Guru, who offers it to Krishna. Through various signs, the Lord showed Thakur Bhaktivinoda and his good wife that this was the great soul that had been sent by Mahaprabhu to carry on the preaching work that Bhaktivinoda Thakur had started. It was witnessed by all present that when the child came out of the womb, his umbilical cord was wrapped around him like a sacred thread worn by the Brahmins. Everyone was amazed by this sign. And then 6 months later, the Jagannath, so February, March, April, May, June,
Yes,
July,
yes.
August, so yeah,
July.
5-6 months later, the annual Rath Yatra festival takes place. So what happened? The cart was being pulled, as always, by hundreds, thousands of people, and it came to stop at Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house was on that grand road.
Mhm.
So this cart stopped, and it wouldn't move. While all the people were trying to get the cart moving, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's wife took the opportunity to take the child, whose name was Bimala Prasad, out to see Jagannath.
Actually, the cart wouldn't move for 3 days.
Mhm. So then, because she was the wife of the Thakur, and he was the manager of the whole temple. So it's quite a exalted position to have, manager of Jagannath temple. So everybody had respect for his wife. She was allowed on the cart. She placed the child at the lotus feet of Jagannath, from whom a garland fell and surrounded this, encircled the boy. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur's heart was filled with joy when he found out that beyond any doubt, this is the boy who's answered of my prayers. So very special personality. They had a big family, didn't they? About what, 12 kids? 12, something like that, 12, 13 children. Yeah. And Bhaktisiddhanta was somewhere in the middle, I think. As the boy grew, the Thakur instructed him in the science of Krishna consciousness. At the age of 7, Bimala Prasad, who was later known as Bhaktisiddhanta, had memorized all the verses of the Bhagavad Gita and could explain each one as well. So that was at the age of 7. Not bad going for a little guy. Now we can sort of compare him to Rianch. Rianch knows
Quite a few verses.
Yeah, 2 chapters, plus he knows many verses from 7th chapter, 10th chapter, other chapters as well.
And Bhagavatam.
And Bhagavatam. So keep going, Rianch. Very good. Bimala was very strict and disciplined. Rianch, are you there?
Yes.
So tell the story.
What, Prabhuji, one day Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur saw some mangoes, so he wanted to touch one of them, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was his father, he chased the Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur never took it because it is not offered to Lord Krishna, even if his disciples give him.
Very good. Yeah, well done. This is when he was 5 years old. He'd taken a mango.
He ate it actually.
And he ate it. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur just mildly chastised him. Why did you eat that mango? Because it was not offered to Krishna. So then there is Bimala Prasad. And here,
This is the family.
this is the whole family. Yeah, it's a lot of kids. I think that's him, isn't it? Bhaktisiddhanta, yeah.
He's the 4th son.
Right. And there's Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that's his wife, Bhagavati Devi. They were very exalted personalities. So he took the father's words very seriously, and he made a vow there and then, 5-year-old, that he would never eat a mango again. And throughout his life, whenever somebody would offer him a mango, because you can imagine a mango in Bharat is
king of fruits.
King of fruit, one of the most delicious fruit, and he would always refuse it. And he would say, no, I cannot take, I'm a great offender. In this way, he kept humble. It's really amazing. Who can keep a vow like that? Made at the age of 5. At the age of 10, he attended Semarpore Missionary School. He was given the Hare Krishna mantra by his father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and the Narsingha mantra. In school, he was actually innovative and brilliant. He would invent many things. One of the things was some sort of phonetic alphabet, which he called Bikranti or Bikanto. Later on, he had attended a special Sanskrit college. He was a lifelong celibate. He never got married. So his memory was very sharp, and he could reproduce word for word any passage of a book he had read many years back, 50 years back.
While he was studying Sanskrit, his tutors were really amazed. And he only studied for a little while, and he thought, okay, if I study till the end of the course, then, you know, my parents will eventually marry me off. So he left that course so that, you know, they would think he's uneducated.
And in fact, they were so amazed by him, the tutors. They gave him this title, Sri Siddhanta Saraswati, because he became very proficient in Sanskrit and many subjects, actually, astrology included. He was astronomy, yeah. At some point in his youth, he adopted the name Shri Vrishabhanavi Daiteya.
Again, he was given that name.
Was he? By whom? Do you know?
By some pandits.
Okay. And that means the servant of the lover of Srimati Radharani. Vrishabhanavi, that's Srimati Radharani. Daita
is the servant.
yeah.
Lover.
Servant of the lover of Radharani. The daughter of
Krishna.
King Vrishabhanu. So there he is as a student in the 1890s. In 1892, Siddhanta Saraswati entered into the Sanskrit College in Calcutta, and where he became expert in the grammar, Vedic Shastras, different types of philosophy. At college, he also read other books in the library, private studies into maths, international history, philosophy, astronomy. At that time, Siddhanta Saraswati attended a cultural association in Calcutta called August Assembly, in which the study of various philosophical and theological topics were conducted. And he was such a powerful debater, nobody could counter his arguments because of his vast erudition and scholarship. In 1895, he took a job with the royal family of Tripura, which was an independent state at that time. So what was his job? He was an associate editor of the royal family's history, Raja Ratnakara, and he had the opportunity there to study in their vast library all the different works of the philosophers, etc. When the king died, his son took over, and the new king also engaged him as a Sanskrit and Bengali tutor for the crown prince, Brajendra Kishore. Amazing name. Huh? When he wished to permanently leave the employment of the royal family in 1905, the Maharaj gave him a full pension equal to the salary he had been earning. But later on, he even renounced the salary because he understood that this is coming from
materialistic person.
Materialist people, yeah. So he didn't want to be contaminated by their wealth. At the age of 23, in 1897, Siddhanta Saraswati opened a school in Calcutta, which he called Saraswat Chotaspati. It was here that he began teaching Vedic astronomy, and many prominent scholarly Calcutta gentlemen were amongst his students. At this time, he also edited 2 monthly journals, the Jyotirvid and the Brihaspati, and probably several authoritative documents on Vedic astrology, such as the Surya Siddhanta, Bhakti Bhavana Panjika, which he'd written himself.
Actually, when he was young, he also used to edit Bhakti Vinod Thakur's magazines as well.
So in 1895, he attended the meetings of the Thakur's Vishwa Vaishnav Raja Sabha. So this was like the prelude to the Gaudiya Math that Bhaktisiddhanta set up. So these are different settings where they would meet and discuss scripture and sing about the glories of the holy name. In 1899, he was editing and writing for the weekly cultural magazine, the Nivedana. 1990, he wrote 1900. So he wrote and published a book on the society and different religious sects in Bengal called the Bange Sama Jikata. So he was quite active. He was a writer. This is much later in his life, in the 30s, 1930s. So he was a scholar, a writer, author. In 1901, his father requested Siddhanta Saraswati to accept a spiritual master and become initiated in the Gayatri Mantra. So now, who did he take initiation from? Bhakti Vinod Thakur, his father, had one very close friend and spiritual leader, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, very renounced, and who Bhakti Vinod Thakur regarded as his Shiksha Guru, teacher. And this is the person that Bhakti Vinod Thakur asked for Bhaktisiddhanta to take initiation from. So he approached him, but Gaur Kishore Das, he was very humble. He didn't have any disciples due to his humility, and he didn't want to take on. And he was actually illiterate. He couldn't read, couldn't write. He was a farmer previously, so very simple. But he was also a devotee for many, many years, and regarded as one of the leaders of the Vaishnava community. So he wouldn't accept Siddhanta Saraswati, who was such a scholar. And he couldn't even write his own name. So disappointed, Siddhanta Saraswati went back to his father and told him what happened. But the Thakur told him, go back, come back with good news, otherwise don't come home. Yes, Priti.
Prabhu, why didn't Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, why didn't he take initiation from his father?
That's a good question. I heard that the reason he didn't give, Bhakti Vinod Thakur didn't give, was because of the family connection, father-son. And that was apparently the reason that he did not give directly to his son, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
He gave him the Harinam.
He gave him the Harinam.
But this is the second initiation.
Yeah. This is what I've heard.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure if tradition like that, father giving to son, sometimes when the family is involved, you don't treat the person as a guru, but as a family member.
I see, yeah.
And that may sort of be a little block on your spiritual progress. But mind you, he never deferred to his father as father. He would always refer to him as Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He had another son who was also spiritually minded, Lalita Prasad.
Lalita Prasad.
Yeah. And he actually, Bhakti Vinod Thakur gave him initiation. But he would always consider Bhakti Vinod Thakur as his father, my father. Whereas Bhaktisiddhanta never regarded him as father. He regarded him as a spiritually, extremely elevated person. So this family connection sometimes can
hamper.
Yeah, can hamper, perhaps, because you take them on your relationship, but actually that family connection isn't a real connection, as we know, right? It's a temporary connection. And if you're thinking that this is my father and I've taken initiation from him, that's not a highly spiritually elevated position to take. If you're thinking this is my spiritual master from life after life, then that's a different matter. But when you're so closely connected, it can hamper your spiritual development. So it's good question. And so he told him, if he doesn't give you initiation, don't come back home. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati then set off with great determination, and he met Gokishore Das Babaji on a bridge along the road, and he told him if he doesn't give him initiation, he's going to jump off the bridge and give up on life. So at that time, well, he said to him, my father told me human life is worthless without spiritual master. So if you refuse to accept me as your disciple, I must kill myself. Upon hearing that and seeing the young man's sincerity of purpose, the Babaji accepted him as his only disciple, adding Bhakti to his name. So he became Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and Thakur was there. And then later on, his disciples called him Srila Prabhupada, just like our Srila Prabhupada. So it can get a little confusing sometimes. Two Prabhupads. Prabhupada had his own Prabhupada. From that year, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur traveled with the Thakur in his pilgrimages to all the principal holy places in Bharat. And later on, there was a huge debate. They engaged in a debate on the beginning of the new year on the basis of the sun's precision with an accomplished student of Vapu Deva Shastri, Rai Bahadur Rajendra Chandra Shastri, president of the Royal Society, presided over the debate in which Bhaktisiddhanta so badly defeated his opponent that the opponent, he passed urine in the assembly out of shock. So he was a really powerful debater. Couldn't really argue against him. During this time, he compiled a Vaishnava encyclopedia called Vaishnav Manjusha. He was staying in Puri where he began publicly preaching the holy precepts of Bhagavatam. He would be uncompromising in his preaching, which sometimes brought controversy, especially with Ramcharan. And the Thakur advised him to go to Mayapur for some time. So he was very strict. He wouldn't stand for any compromise on the philosophy. So I think Ramcharan, he produced a kirtan, which was perhaps, it was maybe what he made up. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati wouldn't accept that because the kirtan should be coming from authorized scriptures or the parampara, Guru parampara. So it was quite controversial. He wouldn't compromise, so he would get into some heavy debates. And the Thakur said to him, okay, too much debating now, go to Mayapur. And after Mayapur, he traveled quite a lot. He went to East Bengal. He would go to different places in Bharat, southern Bharat. He would lecture, preach, write, debate, and he was fully absorbed in the fire of propagating the message of Mahaprabhu. In the south, he traveled to Simhachalam, Madras, Tirupati, Kanchipuram, Purpura, and many other places of pilgrimage. His strong preaching gave him such a reputation that his very name would strike terror into the hearts of his philosophical adversaries. The perverted and immoral so-called religious activities of different nonsense sects and cults were doomed forever in the presence of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Okay, then he did a lot of tapasya as well. And at the same time, he would continue with his work. But in 1905, he went to Yogpit in Mayapur, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birthplace is. And he took a vow that he's going to chant 1 billion names of the holy name, names of the Lord. And this would be like chanting 300,000 names every day. And it would take about 9 years to complete this vow. And he chanted on beads given to him by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who used the same beads himself to chant 1 billion names some time back. So this is quite an accomplishment. And this was the time when a picture taken when he was chanting these names, holy names. And this is during Chaturmasya. You can see he's not shaven.
Yeah, also during Chaturmasya, he only used to have enough to eat that that he could only gather in one palm, and he used to chant a lot. And at the end of the and he used to just sleep on the ground with nothing else, and even that he wouldn't sleep much. And at the end of 4 months, he would be so weak that his father would say, "Why are you doing so much tapasya?"
Even I think he used to eat off the ground.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we just spun.
In 1911, at an All India Conference of the Pandits at Midnapore, presided over by Pandit Vishwambhara Nanda Deva Goswami. So Bhaktisiddhanta went instead of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and this was a very controversial debate. It was about the position of the Brahmin compared to the Vaishnav. So often, especially around those times, the Brahmin was considered to be higher than the Vaishnav. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in this debate conclusively proved through scripture that a Vaishnav, no matter what caste he is born in, whether it's Shudra, Vaish, Kshatriya, or Brahmin, is always going to be superior to the Brahmin. After the discourse, all the people came forward to offer him respects, touch his lotus feet. And the president of the conference called him the other self of Sukadev Goswami. And this lecture was also published as a book in Bengal. So this was a really powerful debate. He established himself as a very powerful scholar when he defeated all the Brahmins or devotees at that stage. And I heard that actually everybody was after him, and it was like to touch his feet, but he wouldn't allow his feet to be touched. So one of the policemen, he forcefully washed Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's feet, and he gave that water to the crowd.
Through the water.
Through the water to the crowd. It pacified them. In 1913, he established the Bhagavad Press in southern Calcutta, which was later moved to Mayapur and then Krishnanagar, where he began to publish his many carefully edited books. So these publishing presses, he has established quite a few of those actually. Altogether, he published, edited, and wrote about 61 works, as well as 8 different journals. So 61 different books, and he established, we'll see a bit later on, how he established the movement.
Brahma Samhita is one of the books.
Brahma Samhita, which we read. Once when he was asked how it's possible to publish a journal every month just about God, he replied that here in this world, there are thousands of newspapers and magazines reporting the stale, repetitious happenings of this limited space. So for reporting the news of the unlimited spiritual realm concerning the eternal, ever-fresh, Supreme Personality of Godhead, we could publish a magazine at every second, what to speak of monthly. This is a really fascinating comment. Bhaktisiddhanta made special studies of the Vaishnava literature of South Bharat, and was first to introduce Bengali translations of the works of Madhvacharya Sampradaya to the public in Bengal. So Madhvacharya, this Sampradaya is based in the line of tradition of Madhvacharya, so this is quite appropriate. He also stressed the importance of publishing, distributing Vaishnava literature as a means of educating the mass of ignorant humanity. And in order to facilitate the printing of books and journals, he established 4 printing presses. So one was in Calcutta, and there was one in Nadia in Mayapur, one in Krishnanagar. Krishnanagar and Mayapur are not far from each other. Krishnanagar is the nearest big town, and also in Cuttack. So this is a heck of an achievement in those days. The early 1900s were difficult times.
When it was still British rule.
British rule, yeah. But this stresses the importance, and Prabhupada latched onto this. He followed in the footsteps of his Guru Maharaj. And he also produced these fantastic Bhaktivedanta purports, without which we wouldn't be here. He called these presses the big Madanga.
Brihat Madanga.
Brihat Madanga. Ah, yes, Brihat Madanga. That's right. Clay drums used for congregational singing groups. So the Madanga makes a lot of sound. But the books make even more sound. That sound would be heard all over India, all over Bharat. In 1914, his father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, passed away. He was left with the task of continuing the movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His guru, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, also left soon after. He took over the editorial of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's journal, the Sajjana Toshani, which was a monthly newspaper. And then he later on converted into the Harmonist. In 1915, yes, this is when Gaur Kishore Das Babaji also left the planet. And he did something, again, very controversial. He took sannyas. His guru wasn't there. His father wasn't there either. So, and there was no one senior enough to give him sannyas. But he took it in the picture, in front of a picture of Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, due to the lack of any advanced Vaishnavas. Although as an eternally perfected soul, he had already achieved the goal of renounced order, he took this step in order to preach the gospel of Mahaprabhu without restrictions. Sannyasis at that time were very rare in the Vaishnava tradition, very, very rare. His father was not, nor was his guru. Yet, I think his guru had made a prediction one time that you will be giving diksha and you will be a sannyasi, something like that. So he took the sannyas from a picture of his guru. That's really controversial. Sometimes these great leaders can do controversial things which you ordinarily are not acceptable. But we can see how Krishna makes everything right, because if you see the effect of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he set up all these different temples, Gaudiya Maths throughout India. And one of his disciples, Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, distributed the holy name throughout the whole world, making 108 temples in his life. Now, this cannot happen by any chance, right? This is by the mercy of the Supreme Lord, the sanction of the Supreme Lord. So sometimes these controversial things might seem a little bit, daring or unauthorized, but you can see in the result that actually the Lord has sanctioned it. So this is the sannyas, picture taken 2 days after 29th of March, 1918. On the same day, he established the first Vaishnava monastery, the Chaitanya Math. This Chaitanya Math became the headquarters for the branch of Gaudiya Maths throughout the world. And the flagship of this Gaudiya Math is in Calcutta. Later that year, one important figure in a popular religious organization met him. He was so impressed by his power of purity that he immediately begged to become a disciple. And this person would arrange for Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's transport between Mayapur and Calcutta. And he also rented a house. That's how they began in Calcutta. Calcutta was, it still probably is, not a great place to be. So Gaur Kishore Das Babaji always instructed Bhaktisiddhanta, don't go to Calcutta. Because it's a place for hell, really. But Bhaktisiddhanta went there in order to establish this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. So his house was called Bhakti Vinod Angan. And later it became known as a Gaudiya Math. And then much later after that, this was centralized into a wonderful, wonderful, huge temple, which is still there, a large marble building in Bagh Bazaar of North Calcutta. And that's reputed to be one of the best temples. It's a very rich temple. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati then in quick succession after that spread his Gaudiya mission to every part of Bharat, attracting thousands of disciples to the banner of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Some people say 50,000 disciples he had. So it's a lot of disciples. At the time of his passing from this world, he had opened 64 Gaudiya maths. That's an achievement for the propagation of spiritual life and Bhagavad philosophy. In many of these maths, he established a worship of Arch Vigraha, Murtis, Radha Krishna, Gaur Gadadhar, in line with the principles set out in Sanatana Goswami's Sri Hari Bhakti Vilas. One time, a very important businessman, gentleman approached him and said, your Gaudiya Math is very nice. You should open up temples in all cities of the world. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati replied, my real business is to establish temples in everyone's hearts. This is really nice, really, really nice. We can have loads of temples, but if nobody changes, if people still remain the same, then what's the use of the temples? There has to be a change in consciousness. The temple has to have an impact on the person and change their way of life into a spiritual life. Then that's the real business. He was such a powerful and bold preacher that he became known as the Lion Guru. Let's have a quick look. There's quite a lot left actually. So I think we'll continue tomorrow. There's so much left actually. It's a huge, his life is actually really phenomenal. It's no point rushing through. Maybe we just finish this bit here and then continue from there. Okay. He was such a powerful and bold preacher, he became known as Good Lion Guru. Sometimes on walks in the early morning, he would come across some big Mayavadi, impersonalist sannyasi, and he would physically grab him and shake him while verbally chastising him. I told you it was controversial. Thereafter, whenever a Mayavadi saw him coming, they would flee in fear of him. One time, a big impersonalist Vedanta society in Calcutta invited him to a debate on the condition that he would not use Bhagavatam as scriptural evidence. Bhagavatam is solid as a scripture because it completely verifies the Vaishnava tradition. So he agreed to come to that debate. Then after a short time, they called him again and said he could not speak either on the Mahabharata or Ramayana or any of the Puranas or the Pancharatras. He agreed on that condition as well. Then again, they called him and they said, no, you cannot use any of the Vedas as script evidence or the Upanishad or the Smriti texts, but could speak only from the Vedanta Sutras. So he agreed to that as well. And then they finally called him and they said, please don't come. So he was something else. So we carry on tomorrow. There's a lot to discuss about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So please do excuse us that we're going to just take it into another session as well. Are there any questions or any comments on what we've talked about so far? Yes, Shyam Malini.
Yes, Prabhu, can you hear me?
Yes. We can't hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sorry about that. Yes, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he left his job, to stay away from materialist life. And then what was he like? How was he earning his living?
Right. He was living very simply. I mean, his father was rich. He was a magistrate. Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So he would have been maintained by his father to some degree. But at some point, he stayed in Mayapur. Was it 1909 or something? He took that vow of 1 billion names. He would live in a hut, and the hut would be leaking, the roof would be leaking. And how he would cure that problem? He would put an umbrella up and he'll be chanting.
Wow.
He wouldn't even bother repairing it. So he lived a very, very austere life.
Very simple, but high thinking, yeah.
High thinking, yeah.
Very
Fiery
simple.
thinking.
Yeah. Thank you, bro.
Nice. Okay. He didn't stand for nonsense. They were, especially when he came across Mayawadis, he was very, 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 very strong, very powerful.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. And Prabhupada was the same. Our own Prabhupada was the same. You know, he's very fiery. When we came to Mayavad philosophy, he would really speak against it, hammer it down. Sorry.
Well,
Hare Krishna, Kamashi.
yeah, Aruna and myself are reading Science of Self-Realization, and Prabhupada's question answers are so to the point, and you feel, oh my God, his thinking is so instant, and you feel the person who's asked the question just doesn't realize how quick Prabhupada answers all the questions so smartly.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal, absolutely amazing. Prabhupada would debate with his own students, you know, and he would make them very strong. And of course, his books are full of, if you look at the Bhagavad Gita, you know, even the verse may have no connection with bhakti, but he would give it as it is, the bhakti. And Prabhupada didn't compromise. He wanted to give us the essence in every purport. You know, it's just.
Yeah, so when you think of Prabhupada as such a personality, we can imagine how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Swami must have been.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel the people didn't take the advantage of the preaching of him, whoever didn't. But at least Prabhupada managed to go around the world and got so many souls liberated. And at least younger generation is now taking into learning Bhagavad Gita as it is, which is such a mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see tomorrow how Bhaktisiddhanta, he actually did try to send his disciples to the West, and he did send them, in fact. They didn't have huge success. It was a sort of different environment and different mood of the preachers. Prabhupada had a unique mood of complete humility and surrender. And
I think maybe because he approached just by Sankirtan, I think people into music really got attracted, isn't it? Singing and kartalas and madangas.
Yeah.
So that was like a luring thing. And the ones who fell for it have swum through the Maya.
Yeah. Plus his humility was second to none, you know. You can see when he wrote those poems in the Jaladuta. Do what you want with me. I don't know why you brought me to this place, leaving Vrindavan, coming to the West. You know, everything was completely, he was on his own. He had no money. When Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur sent his preachers, he sent them with money. He sent them. There were 3, 4, 5 at one point of them there. So, and this old man, Prabhupada, 2 heart attacks on the way. Impossible mission.
I saw the planning and the preparation.
Yeah. Extraordinary, really. What Prabhupada did, absolutely nobody in this world could have done. So amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I think reading Prabhupada's biography has really triggered my Krishna consciousness at the most depth, because when I read, I had tears and I kept saying, oh my God, if that age, if such a person can do something like that and warm people's heart, it is amazing.
And it should inspire us as well, that nothing is
Yes, true,
impossible.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Books does the miracles.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Prabhupada is something else. Nobody can beat him. Okay, let's stop there. And we'll carry on tomorrow. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
jai.